Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. This is Pedro. I'm here with Zach Haptonstall. Is that how you pronounce
Yep,
it?
that's right. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Welcome aboard, man. It's an honor to have someone like you with so much experience in the real estate industry coming on the podcast to share your story.
Hey, thanks so much, Pedro. I really appreciate you reaching out, man, and giving me the opportunity to be on your show. And hopefully, we can bring some value to your listeners.
Awesome, dude. So, I know that, pretty successful, 48 million in assets right now, 420 units, if I'm correct. But I know you didn't start there. I know that real estate wasn't always your thing. I know that you've kind of been in different industries, faced some adversity, even finding out like what really fits your personality and your goals in your life. And, as I was saying prior to start recording, there's a lot of, Generation Z, kind of people even graduating from high school, people just graduated from college, cannot find jobs or are really finding out the reality of what it is to be in the industry that they studied. And before they had a theory of what it was going to look like, but now that they're kind of starting to get their hands in the field, they're seeing that it's not for them. And it can
Right.
be very disappointing, especially when you invest, financial means into, a college degree and really think that, man, I don't want to pursue this. So, if you want to tell a little bit about your story, your background, how you ended up to where you are, and just a little bit of your story, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you make a great point, Pedro, and we can go into that as far as my personal experiences. But you make a great point with Generation Z and millennials kind of coming out of college with this degree and having all this student debt, not knowing what they want. But a quick background on me: I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona, so I pretty much lived here my entire life. And I mean, I grew up in like a lower middle class family, so nothing wealthy, no real estate background or anything. And just like most people, I think I was just taught by my parents and kind of like society, like work hard, do well in school, get good grades, right? I played sports, so I was always very competitive. I wanted to please people, you know what I mean, and do a good job and work hard and be disciplined. And so I was always more of like really a shyer, more introverted person. And I did
Mm.
good. I did well in high school, and I had a football scholarship to a small Division II school in Colorado. And I was like, okay, great, that'll help pay for my school. And so I went there for a year, and it was a small town. You're waking up at 5 a.m. every day to do suicide, speed, and agility, and you're doing crazy hours for football. And then I didn't have any money. I was 17, so I graduated high school. I was 17. I moved to Colorado. I don't know anybody, and I was broke. My parents were broke, so they couldn't really help me. So I was trying to work like 20, 25 hours a week on the weekends, in addition to doing football and school. And it was just a lot. I was like, man, I don't want to do this. And so I did a year there. I came back to Phoenix, and I got a football scholarship at a junior college. And I was there for about half a year. And I just kept getting injured. You know what I mean? I just kept hurting my back and knees. And I was like, man, this sucks. I'm not making any money doing this. I'm probably not going to make the NFL. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to pursue football anymore. And that was really tough, because in football, it's a culture of mental toughness, and you don't make excuses, and you grind, and you have to be a warrior. But so it was tough to give up on that because I felt like I was quitting. But I told myself, okay, I'm going to apply this, and I'm going to use this as like a chip on my shoulder, right? So I'm going to apply this to school and my future goals. And so I told myself, I'm not going to get any B's. And I had gotten straight A's so far in college. And I said, I'm not going to get any B's in college. And so sure enough, I grinded my way through, and I decided I wanted to be a sports reporter, a sports journalist. And so I got my associate's degree, finished at the community college. Then I transferred to Arizona State to the Walter Cronkite Journalism School, which is a prolific journalism school. I didn't even realize at the time, but it's pretty well known. And so I graduated there. I got a 4.0, summa cum laude, did everything you're supposed to do, get the right grades. I was a live news anchor on Arizona PBS for a short amount of time. So I was literally like going live, doing live newscasts.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people probably even watch that channel, but it's supposed to reach a lot of people, right? And then I hosted a show on Fox Sports Network. So it was really cool, like the adrenaline rush, things like that. I had always been introverted. And so I was just kind of trying to push myself to take on new challenges. And I was terrified. Like before we go live, every time I was shaking, like my hands were shaking, super sweaty, but you learn to fake it till you make it. So that was a good experience. But then I started to realize like all my friends are graduating, getting jobs in these small towns. And I'm like, man, this is not what I thought. Like you make crap money in journalism unless you really worked your way up for years and years and you're in a top market. You work crazy hours. It's very political. And it's not like when you're a sports fan, it's a lot different when that's your job and you're under pressure to get stories and interview people and meet deadlines. It's not just because you're a sports fan doesn't necessarily mean you want to be a sports journalist. That's what I had to realize the hard way. And so I'm like, okay, here I am. I just graduated. I'm 21 now. I graduated this fancy degree. Again, my parents didn't help pay for any school or anything. So I had a bunch of student debt. Okay. I was paying as much as I could while I was working full time, like 40 hours a week while I was going to school, but I still had student debt. I'm like, well, crap, I don't want to pursue journalism because I'm not going to achieve like the goals I want to as far as lifestyle. I'm not even passionate about it. I just did it because I thought I don't know what else to do. Like I think a lot of people in this generation are, right? We don't know what exactly we want to do. So you just go to college as the default knee-jerk reaction because that's what society teaches you.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I graduate. I'm like, okay, I need to make money. And so the last couple of years my junior and senior year while I was in college, I was delivering medical equipment nights and weekends called durable medical equipment to pay for school. This was like a job I had gotten through a girlfriend I had at the time. Her dad was like the manager of it. He had hired me so I could go to the school during the day and then I was on call at night, like delivering medical equipment, wheelchairs, etc. And so when I graduated, he's like, I was talking, he's like, hey, you can make pretty good money doing healthcare marketing. And so my only goal when I graduated, I had read the Dave Ramsey book when I was like 18, 19. Okay. So I had learned about wanting to kill debt and be financially free. And here I am, I have a crappy old F-150. It's like about to break down. I have no cash and I have a bunch of student debt. Like I had at least 30 or 40K of student debt. And so my sole focus was I want to kill my debt. So I got a job. He got me a job in a hospice company. So for those who don't know what hospice care is, it's basically mobile nursing and caregiving that goes and cares for patients wherever they're living. So it's a mobile service and they have to have like end of life illnesses. So they may be on hospice for a week, a year, sometimes 2 years, depending on how they're doing. But it's free for them through their insurance. My job was to wake up in the morning, drive all around Phoenix and just walk into buildings and cold call in hospitals, doctors' offices, assisted livings, wherever, and build relationships with these people. And so that when they had somebody who needed hospice, they call me, and I'm the first person to meet with that family, listen to what their issues are, and then the issues they're having with their loved one, and then educate them on these resources and get them signed up. And so it sounds weird, I know, to people, but hospice is actually a very lucrative and competitive private business industry. Okay, basically, Medicare, the federal government, is reimbursing a private company by signing up a patient. Okay, and so I mean, you have to be to be good at it. You have to not only be a competitor, but you have to be very professional and ethical. You know what I mean? Because families see through sleazy sales like that,
especially
you know what I mean?
at times like that.
Exactly. Yeah. You're almost kind of like a social worker because you're meeting with these people and you're doing active listening. So here I am, like, I was like, okay, I just need to make money. And all of a sudden I'm doing hospice. And so we were kind of talking before you started recording, Pedro, is like a lot of people in our generation, they're taught to go to school, right? And then they get a degree like psychology or communications or things that don't necessarily translate to a specific trade or job. And then you graduate the degree. And most people have student debt, a lot of it. And even if you don't, you're like, well, what do I do now? Right. And what if you're not passionate about the quote unquote career path that you're supposed to pursue that correlated to the degree you just got? Like, what do you do? And a lot of people feel lost. Right. And I think people feel lost when they graduate high school and then they graduate college and they're like, well, what do I do now? And that's kind of where I was. I was like, well, I have student debt. I didn't want to pursue journalism. Now what am I doing? So I go into hospice and I just focused on just grind it out for a year. And I was making decent money. When I first started, I had like a $70,000 base salary, which was really good for somebody who's like 20, right? And with bonus, I made like 90,000 my first year, but it was a grind and I wasn't really happy doing it. I was just trying to kill debt. So I just kept grinding along. You know, I did that for 4 years, just trying to achieve financial goals. And so over those 4 years, I got to the point where I was making over $200,000 a year. I paid off all my bachelor's degree. I also got my MBA at night school and I paid for that cash. I bought a house when I was 23. I became the director of marketing and then a co-owner in the company. And so I was very blessed to do well, you know, in this industry, but I was also grinding it out. And I wasn't actually happy or passionate about it. I was just trying to be the best I could be in that industry, and I was competing to be the best I could be. But I never really felt fulfilled, because it's always like you're chasing the next commission. And now when I'm financially free and I had like 120K in my account, I have a house and I'm living alone, I was just kind of like, what's next? And so
Yeah.
I know you have questions, so I know I'm talking long, Pedro. I'll finish it up here. So basically in 2018, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this healthcare or anything anymore. I want to pursue like some type of passive income or somewhere where I can truly grow my wealth, because I wasn't becoming really wealthy. I was getting taxed heavily. I was W-2
Yeah.
employee, right? And I was constantly hustling. I was working at least 60, 70
Yeah,
hours.
you're working for your money, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
if you
It's a rat
stop, no money comes in, right? That's the beauty
race.
of real estate.
Exactly. And so I didn't know anything about real estate. I read Rich Dad Poor, like the cliche story goes, and I really learned about that. So in January 2018, I resigned and I sold my equity in the company. I made like a little over 200K. It wasn't like significant, but it was decent for that time. And I said, okay, I'm going to learn how to create passive income. So I lived off of savings for over a year, making no money at all. And that was really hard too. But basically, long story short, we can go into any questions. Lived off savings for over a year, started listening to podcasts like yours, reading books, cold calling people, networking, meeting with people, and learned about multifamily syndication. It took 14 months from when I quit my job to close the first deal. Okay, which was we
Mm,
closed the first deal. So I quit my job January 2018. Okay, so it's already been 2.5 years. We closed the
yeah.
first deal last February. So about, what is that? 16 to 18 months ago, 16,
Mm,
17 months after we closed the first deal, which was a 36 unit, $3.4 million deal. Since then, since last February, we've acquired 48 million of assets. That's over 5 properties, 420 units.
uh,
So it was really hard and a lot of adversity on the front end. But once we got the first one, we caught momentum. You get a lot of confidence, you get the experience, and you can start to
yeah.
roll and scale up. So that's kind of where we're at now.
That's great, man. You know, you touch on so many great points that, like, I feel like anyone who's either graduated off high school, it's such a young age, right? I graduated high school at 17 too, and it's such a young age. I'm 21 right now. 17, dude, I had no clue who I was. I had no clue what the heck I was making. You know, all the decisions in terms of colleges to apply on the last year
Right.
and kind of degrees that I was planning on pursuing were all based on my surroundings. You know, what are my friends are applying, where they're applying, you know, what are they planning on studying, what do my parents want, and it's so confusing, man, because there's no actual preparation of what actual life looks like, adulthood, you know,
Right.
paying your bills, understanding how to, you know, be independent and understand your finances. There's no sorts of education, like you don't learn that in school, man. And
Yep.
it's
Don't
it's
teach you.
it's it's really upsetting to me, because not to say I think that, you know, education is highly important. I think that I don't necessarily think schools is not, you know, the way to go, but you know, the thing that I want to point out to anyone who listens to this is that at some point you're gonna have to learn to seek answers for yourself. You can't depend on you know,
Right.
school to do it for you. You're gonna have to hustle like you did, right? It took you 14 months to get the first deal. You know, I'm sure that throughout that 14 months, there were months and days that you were like, you know, I'm not being productive. It seems like it's not for me. Um, and a lot of people would quit. And even when you're, you know, in the healthcare industry, it's like you weren't necessarily happy, but you knew that were duties that you needed to take care of, like for example your school debt and becoming financially free. Because if you had just quit there and pursued real estate there, imagine how much harder that would be, right?
Right.
uh,
Yep.
and sometimes you have to make sacrifices. And I understand that the part of us pursuing what really intrinsically makes sense to us, it is important. It's actually a duty. I think it's a responsibility that us individuals have to do, because you should be more scared, you know, about staying wherever position you are if it's making you miserable, than going out there and going to the desert and trying something that you believe you like. Uh, but let's say, for example, if before you try to, you know, pursue a journalistic degree, let's say if you got an internship, you would be able to see what it actually was like, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the advices that I got when I was going to Santa Monica College. A friend of mine, he was like, you say you like real estate, go work for someone, before anything, because right now you think you like it.
Yeah.
You don't actually know. Because you see you see from a perspective that's not like there, and you imagine and visualize all this. Oh, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to make this amount of money, and I'm going to meet these people, and I'm going to live this lifestyle. And once you actually get your hands in the dirt, you're like, wow, it's not what I expected. And
Yep.
that can be
100%.
pretty frustrating, right? So what would you say, you know tell me about some of the maybe anxiety moments or fears that throughout the 14 month period before you got your first deal, and how did you really continue even after experiencing moments of adversity?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because there's a lot of fear and anxiety that I went through and that anybody goes through, right? When you're trying to do something new, you're uncharted territory. And it's just, and I had, at that point, I had like 4 years of outside marketing. I had done the journalism stuff. So from the outside perspective, you would think that I'm very outgoing, right? And confident and find meeting new people. But I mean, I was terrified to meet brokers and the property managers and the lenders because here I am at that time. I think I'm 28 now. I think I was 26. And so it's like, I'm going into these meetings and I'm thinking that they're thinking, oh, this kid doesn't know what the hell he's doing, right? And you start to doubt yourself and you let fear creep into your mind and your heart. And you can defeat yourself before you even try just by doing that. And so, I mean, I took longer than I should have to even call a broker for the first time because you're afraid of failing,
Mm.
and a lot of people do that. I mean, but that was the biggest turning point for me was reaching out and meeting with the brokers. And I'm sure I looked super nervous the first couple times, but I always wear like a tie and I would wear a suit and try to look credible and try to fake it till you make it type of deal. You know what I mean? And after you get some of those meetings out of the way, you realize they're just people just like you and I. You know what I mean? They're just normal people. They're doing a job. And it's just really, you need to try to engulf yourself in the industry by being around those types of professionals and start to learn the languages and the jargon so that you can feel like you belong. But I mean, yeah, there was a lot of anxiety. I mean, it's stressful burning through cash constantly, when I go from getting like fat paychecks every 2 weeks and a big bonus at the end of every month to now making nothing, and then you shift from like an abundance mindset to a scarcity mindset where it's like, oh, I need to save this or save that. Like, no, we can't go out to dinner. Things like that. So yeah, it sucks. It's tough because like you said earlier, you wake up every day, like, what do I do today? It's not like when you have a job, you have a goal, you're being paid to achieve a task, right? But when you're trying to be an entrepreneur, there's not necessarily a manual. Like you can read a bunch of books, which I did, and you can listen to audiobooks. But you're like, how do I move the needle today? And it's really tough because it takes a lot of time and you have to be so disciplined to try to do something productive every day and not get too discouraged. And I got to the point where I was putting so much pressure on myself, stressing myself out because I wasn't getting enough visible
Yes.
production that I read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. I forget the author's name, but it's a great book. And it talks about just at some point you have to relax and let
Mm.
the inner workings of your subconscious work. You can learn all the content, but you can't force it too much because then you're kind of pushing against yourself. So that's what
You
I kind
burn
of,
yourself, right?
you burn yourself out. And so you have to be persistent, but you also have to have balance and have a healthy lifestyle. And so I think I've talked about this on other interviews where I read Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and it's all about having like a good routine, right? Like, so now I'm such a creature of habit now, and I go to bed early, wake up early, hydrate, eat right, work out every morning, 7 days a week, even when I don't want to, you know what I mean? Stretch a lot. It's just all these little things gives me fuel because it helps me to overcome anxiety and fear. You know what I mean? To take on bigger obstacles. But so yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, and it's a loaded question, but you have to just push your comfort zone and you can't be afraid to fail because it's not as bad as you think. And you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid to fail, and I'm afraid of being mediocre, right? And being afraid of regret. And so you really don't have anything to lose if you have kind of a backup plan for what your lowest point will be. And if you can anticipate that, then you should take the risk.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Even from the aspect that you're telling, like you quit your job and now you move from like an abundant mindset to the scarcity, because not now it's like money's coming out and nothing's coming in. And you're like, if I continue like this for, I'm sure that you did the numbers. If my overhead expenses maintains for this, I have this many, years or months to survive. I need to make it. And every day as an entrepreneur, as you said, it's like a roller coaster of emotions, man. You may wake up one morning and you're feeling like this is the day, and then something happens, or you try to be productive and it doesn't go your way. You automatically allow that to consume you. And it's so important, I think, that people that want to pursue the route of entrepreneurs, it's like they need to be able to consistently handle the emotions that come at you, because it's going to be a roller coaster. And if you don't think that you have the personality, either you need to learn to deal with it, or I don't know, because as you said, having a job, it's not necessarily bad. There's people that like
Yeah.
it, and
No, absolutely. It's not, yeah, absolutely. And to that point too, Pedro, I want to be clear too. So yeah, I did this. I quit in January 2018, and then we did the multifamily. We got like a bunch of units, and then it really started to slow down. And I had all the infrastructure in place. I had my business partners. Then I started to get bored as hell because there weren't enough deals. And I ran out of liquidity. I ran out of money because I had invested my money. I sold my house later on in that story, and I put all the money into the deals. And so last October, I had a non-compete with that previous hospice, okay, and it had ended. So last October, I started talking to other hospice companies, and I was like, man, it would be nice to have liquidity and to have a high income again, so I can do real estate and healthcare to make good money. So I took a job in October. I'm the president now and co-owner of a hospice company, and now I have a strong salary in addition to doing real estate. So now I'm doing both, and I'm flexible on both, and it's great because I don't need to spend all day doing the real estate because I have partners and we know what we're doing. So yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to quit your job and do anything crazy,
yeah.
but you need on the front end when you're trying to learn a new business, you need to spend as much free time as you have as possible to immerse yourself into it. You know what I mean? But there
Yeah.
is, it can be comfortable, or it can help you to have income, right? Because it frees you up to do another business. So my
Hmm.
story is kind of dramatic because I just went all in like that, but it's not necessarily what you have to do. You can do both too.
Yeah. And it kind of what you said, right? Like, because we humans, we're very interesting creatures psychologically. Like, if you put yourself in that situation, it's not everyone like, and that can handle it, because as you said, right, you move from an abundant mindset to a scarcity mindset, and you absolutely don't want that to happen. I mean, of course it's going to happen from time to time, but you want to minimize that, because once you're on a scarcity mindset, it's going to put you down, and you're going to start being defensive when you need to actually take action.
You be aggressive.
And exactly. Now, for people that just graduated right now, and maybe they're trying to apply for jobs in the industry that they studied, and they cannot find jobs, or people that are slowly trying to realize that what they studied wasn't actually what they expected, and want to experience something else, or even figure it out what they want to do, what would be, an advice or two that you would probably give to these people if you were to be able to be face to face to someone like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're so like growing up through high school and college, we're so trained to like quote unquote pursue our passion, right? Like, oh, pursue your passion. It's more important than money, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of that's BS in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because I don't think a lot of people know what their passion is until they try it. Or you think you might be passionate about something, but you're not going to be passionate about something every day. So you really
Mhm.
need to, and a lot of people are like, I want to pursue happiness. Well, what is happiness? And that's the thing. And I know we talked earlier, Pedro, about both being believers, and I'm not saying whether you're a believer or not in God. I believe like we're in a fallen world, right? And so it's not going to always be perfect. It is a tough world, and you have to have a warrior mindset, and you have to be able to grind through things. And no matter what you achieve, no matter how many achievements, money you have, you're never going to be fully happy or fulfilled. So it's really comes down to gratitude, right? It's being grateful for what you have. And when I was in those low points where I was like, had no job, lost all my confidence, lost my self identity because I didn't have anything. So if I go to like a social event, people say, what do you do? And I say, I don't know. I'm a real estate investor, but I don't have any real estate. You know what I mean? It's like you get to a low point, and that's when I got really grateful because I realized if I lost everything else, I would just become to this point, and I can fine, I can deal with this. Like I can be grateful for these little things. And so when you're to get back to your question, first of all, you need to be grateful for what you have in life. And then you need to shoot for the stars, and you need to ask what your goals are. Like maybe you don't care about money, but you want to have some type of occupation. Well, you need to not hesitate to push your goal to the maximum level of that industry. Okay. Like if you want to be a scientist, then be the best scientist in the world and find the cure for cancer, whatever it is. You need to not hesitate to push yourself to that. And you need to just stay focused on that. And so, I mean, if you're, for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I needed to kill debt. So you don't need to go for like your ultimate goal right out of college or right out of high school. You just need to set up goals along the way. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. Like now I'm really passionate about real estate, and that's cool. Right. And so my goal is to acquire as many units as I can over the next few years, because Grace and I are getting married this year. We want to have a bunch of kids. So I want to create like a strong financial foundation for our family. And then once we have a bunch of passive income, maybe I won't be as passionate about real estate and I want to pursue other things because I'll have the time and foundation to do that. But you need to just kind of break it down into steps. Like in the beginning, I had school debt and I wanted a better car. I didn't know anything about hospice, and it was kind of a very dreary industry, but I knew I could make good money, better than anything else I could think of at the time. And so I bit the bullet and I just grinded through, and I achieved those goals of paying off the debt. And I wasn't happy every day, you know what I mean? But I at least had the sense that I was making progress. And my opinion is, as humans, we have to have the feeling that we're making progress, real or perceived. We always have to. We don't ever want to be plateaued. Like even if you're a billionaire, if you don't have the next goal or the next challenge, you're going to get depressed because it's like you don't have anything to challenge you. So you just need to be making progress. So you need to set goals, and then you need to look at what the steps need to be taken. And some of those are going to be scary steps, but you need to shoot towards those. And so that's I know it's a vague answer, but it could just vary depending on what your goals are and what you want to do.
Yeah. And that's another problem, right? Because you're totally right. Even from the aspect, that figuring out that, for you, having your job and still investing in real estate, the culture of today tells a person that they need to do things in a certain way. And I'm tired of hearing that. Like, you should figure it out what's for you, man, and stop trying to pursue exactly what's, idolize a person and try to be exactly like them, because for them, it may be happy, it may be making them happy, and not fully, as you said, right? Because even let's say in real estate, you may be passionate about raising money and talking to investors, but when it comes to analyzing a deal, underwriting or whatever it is, you may completely hate it,
right?
Because it's not you. So even when we're talking about, as you said, passion or something we enjoy, there's going to be aspects of that job and days that are going to be really fun, and you're going to be like, wow, now today I've understood why I'm doing this. But there's going to be some days that you're going to be like, wow, like today was not a good day, and that's fine, right? And that's what I think that's the problem, because the narrative of today's culture is it shows that, like, if you're not constantly happy every second, something is wrong and you need to work on that.
It's BS, total BS.
Yeah, it's total BS. No, like, as you said, like the aspect, even just the aspect of, even if you don't believe in God, like just the fallen world, like it's clear that things are not always in place, and things somehow you're never completely fulfilled from this, material things. Like, it's normal. No one is actually. And if someone tells you that they're completely fulfilled, it's a lie. They found distractions to make them feel that way, but those distractions that they're using to make them think that they're happy, it's not true. So my advice is, like, figure your own path, and people are gonna laugh at you. You're gonna have doubts about, especially people that are close to you. They're gonna be like, what are they gonna think of me? But if you're not willing to give that up, it's gonna be very hard for you to try something new, because you're always going to be basing your decisions of what people around you are thinking of you.
100%. That's the problem with this culture, and what the generation we've grown up in is we grew up in the social media generation, right? Where you got Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. Everything is we've been trained to think that we need to please people. We need to make people think that we're doing well. We need to look physically attractive. We need to look like we have money. And it's all built around social networking, and even if it's virtual, like the impression of social networking. And what it does is it causes us to care too much about what other people think of us and try to please other people. And the reality is, is like I don't really hang out with any friends, and I didn't really in college or after college. I've always, and it's not that I'm not social like people, but I've always been. I spend my free time on my goals. You know what I mean? Or I might have a girlfriend and spend time with a girlfriend, or now my fiance. But it's like there's too many people that are focused on, oh, I need to hang out with this group of friends and that group of friends, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with having friends. But it's like if you want to achieve a big goal, then you need to be working towards that, and that goes hand in
Yeah.
hand with, you don't need to worry about other people think. Like screw what their expectations are and what they think of you. You need to worry about what your goals are, and you need to focus on the disciplines that it takes to achieve those goals. Then you can look back 3 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, and you'll see if you've made progress. And if you haven't made progress, you need to evaluate what were you doing and what were you not doing, and eliminate a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff. Like I think social media for the most part is BS. I think it's very necessary. It's a powerful marketing tool. But when you're for businesses and things like that, when you're using it yourself, being immersed in it, it's a big waste of time. It creates
Yeah.
fear of missing out. It creates all kinds of unhealthy, like psychological, mental phenomena. So you just got to be careful. And I agree with you. You cannot worry too much what other people think. You have to almost embrace adversity and embrace being a rebel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Embrace rebelling against other people's expectations and not caring what they think.
Yeah. And even embracing the fact that things are now not always going to go the way you expect, right? Especially with work, right? I'm sure that there were situations in which maybe you're almost getting to closing a deal and things fall through, or your best partner employee decide that they are going to pursue something else, whatever the case is in your situation. But those things happen. And I think that the lack of ability to understand and embrace that aspect of business and work in our lives cause great disappointment, because we expect it to be pure bliss and not expect it to be the reality of what it actually is. And as you said, social media shows only the aspect of the great moments, the celebrations, the powerful things that you can accomplish through your work, but it doesn't show the actual behind the scenes, that it's okay, maybe you are able to achieve great things. Look, you have $48 million in assets. That's something to be celebrated, but at the end of the day, it took a lot of hard work, it took disappointment, it took resilience to get there. So we need to talk more about those things, because that's what it's actually going to take people to get to 48 million, not
Exactly.
not the results and the emotion dopamine that you're going to feel from achieving them. And
100%. They need reality. People need reality. And that's the
mm,
thing. I mean, real estate's a perfect example of this too, because like you say you have millions of assets under management, and I'm guilty of it because it's part of marketing too. But it's like, and you go on a podcast, people think you're an expert, but the reality is we haven't hardly made any money from real estate yet. Most of the money as a syndicator is made when you execute the business plan and you sell the asset on the back end. Okay. And so it's like, I'm not financially free. I'm not from your real estate, even though we have 420 units and we've owned our first deal for almost a year and a half. And I see all these people and even these mentors and gurus who have people on their podcast saying they're financially free. I know they're not financially free. It's BS, because it's a hard
mm,
path. And just because you have 48 million of assets under management doesn't mean that you yourself are a multimillionaire, because we own
mm,
small percentages of these deals and we syndicate them with investors. And so it's still a long-term game, right? Where you
yeah,
have to do a lot of deals, you have to execute the business plan, sell them. That's when you start to get that capital, a big chunks of
yeah,
capital, and then you reinvest and keep doing it. And so, yeah, I think real estate's a good example of that, is that you don't ever know how successful or unsuccessful
yeah,
somebody is. And you don't need to compare yourself to other people either. You just need to take tidbits of information that you think are valuable, and you need to pursue the goals, and you need to try to simplify it. You just realize
yeah.
what's the next step.
Now, let me ask you, what's a day like in your life as both a real estate investor and a professional like you? Like, how does your day go through, just so that if someone is like, maybe I want to become a syndicator, what are maybe some of the misconceptions of what people think of the industry that are really not like, so that people that are coming in, they can be aware and not have this blind view of what real estate really looks like. You already mentioned some of them, which are pretty big ones, like just because you have this a number amount of dollars in assets doesn't mean that what is in your bank account or what your
Right.
net worth actually is.
Yeah, people have to realize, and we do it too. We advertise our assets under management because it lends credibility to brokers, investors, things like that. And it's true. That's how many assets we have under management. But you got to remember, these deals, we're buying them all with loans. Okay, we didn't buy them $48 million cash. We have a loan of at least 70 to 75% of that. And then we syndicate it. So this is a lot of other people's money that we've raised, and we're partners, and we have sweat equity. Okay. And so, I mean, we still have a good chunk of sweat equity, and it is a very profitable industry. But like the cliche goes, a lot of people have said this, it's not get rich quick, but it's get rich for sure. A lot of people hear that in multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, because it's well proven. Yeah. As far as like a day in the life of me. So like I said, I have the hospice job as well, where I'm the president of a hospice organization. So I wake up every day at 4:50. That's just the time I chose several months ago. I wake up at 4:50. I wash my face, brush my teeth, drink a bunch of water. I eat breakfast. I sit down, a little quiet time. I pray, meditate, I journal, and then I do a quick workout at home. And then I shower, and then I go to the hospice office, get there by 8 a.m. And then it just kind of depends. For me, with real estate, it's very mobile. So that's the cool thing about real estate. And with where we're at now, I have two partners. Bikram Sandhu is one, and he's focused on primarily underwriting and watching financials. Robert Shevchik is focused on post-acquisition asset management, getting on the calls, things like that. So it just depends on the day. But like, for example, today, for today, we just made an offer. We made an offer last week on a deal, which is about 12 million. And the broker's trying to push us up against another buyer. We're not going to budge. So I was texting back and forth with the broker, seeing where that guy's at. And he said he's trying to vouch for us. But the other guy, the seller's still waiting. We made an offer yesterday on an off-market deal. It's a little over 15 million. They're probably going to go with us. And so today I was talking to the broker, and he wants to have a phone call set up with the seller tomorrow afternoon to make sure that they want to vet us. They don't know us. They've heard of us. I'm doing a phone call with the seller tomorrow, and we're just going to explain our credibility and our track record. I spoke to one of our equity investors today for about an hour. I got on the phone with my partner Bikram, and this equity investor who wants to invest almost $2 million in this deal that we just got. So we talked about an equity structure, and we went on a Zoom call today, and we talked about how that would all break out, and we're all on the same page. So if we get this deal, it's like a $5.3 million raise. He'll invest $2 million of that himself, and we discussed the structure of how that would make sense. I got a call from one of my other partners that we did on our first deal today, and he's like, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to check in. We have our first property is listed for sale. We got a full price offer today, fortunately, from some guy who has a 1031 exchange. And so that's our 36 unit that we closed on last February I was talking about. We've had no action on that for months, and we just got a full price offer today. The guy is 12 million. He wants to do a 1031 exchange, and we just got an offer today. So my partner called me, said, hey man, we should take that. I said, okay, I'll call the broker. We'll talk to him. I said, we also have this other deal we're just made an offer on. If you want to throw $100K into whatever. He's like, okay, let me know the details. It's like little conversations like this. I called the broker that we have the deal listed with, and talked to him for a little bit today, and just said, hey, are these guys for real that made the offer? What's the story? He's like, yeah, the guy is a broker. He's a broker with Marcus and Millichap out of California, did a 1031 exchange. He's deploying capital. He's flying in tomorrow out of California to tour the asset. I'll let you know if he's for real. And I said, okay, if he is, we'll countersign it and let's get it under contract and good to go. We were just talking about doing a refi on this property last week, and we have term sheets because we weren't able to sell it. So I was talking to another partner on the property about doing a refi. So we've got a lot of things going on. And so it's kind of fun, because we're pursuing other acquisitions. We're talking about a deal that we're trying to sell. We're talking about refinances, things like that. But this took a long time to get to this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we have property management phone calls throughout the week. I'm usually on them, but I'm not the lead person. So my other partners lead those property management phone calls. My role is to focus on acquisitions and raising capital for our team and our company. And so I'm communicating with brokers mostly and investors. I had another investor reach out to me today saying that he just got an accepted LOI on a property, and he has 1.75 to 2 million that he wants to do a 1031 exchange. if we have any deals coming up. And I told them we might have one coming up. We sent this LOI. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to stay in touch with investors and with brokers. And if you would have asked me like even a year ago from now, a year ago, last summer, if this is how my day would be going, I would be like really happy because I feel extremely blessed to have all this activity because it's fun. You know what I mean? But it's sporadic. So that was literally just today. Like that's honestly what happened today from a real estate perspective. And then I was at the hospice office doing different phone calls with patients, families, having staff meetings, things like that. So it's flexible, and I'm happy that I can do both. But yeah, from like a syndicator's perspective, I think once you get your team in place and you have like infrastructure, it gets a lot easier. But you have to have defined roles. In the beginning, when I didn't have any partners, I was all over the place, right? I think you said you listened to another interview I've done, Pedro, and you know, like I don't like to do underwriting. Like I understand it and everything, but I don't like getting into the spreadsheets. And so I had to find complementary partners. But initially, I was trying to like call brokers, meet with them, get the deal. They send me the financials. I'm spending hours and hours and days underwriting the deal, not even knowing if I screwed it up or not, you know? And then I'm shopping comps, and then I'm trying to talk to people about, hey, I'm trying to get into multifamily. Would you be willing to invest? And it's very overwhelming and it's daunting. Okay. So you just need to figure out which aspect of the business you are passionate about and what you're good at. And you need to fill in the gaps with complementary partners. Okay. So we have Bikram as a CPA, economics degree, and he loves to underwrite, but he doesn't like talking to people. Okay. So that's why I talk to people and try to form relationships. Like today, another thing we did today is I set up a phone call with the owner of our property management company to go over our pro forma budget for this deal we just made an offer on. So I got Bikram on the call, the owner of the PM company, and we had like a 15-20 minute phone call going over our assumptions. We said, hey, that this payroll expenses are in line. Yesterday I shopped comps, okay, for this property. I shopped 5 different assets and got their rents, all their fees, everything, and I put it in the spreadsheet. And today we were asking our property management company, based on our comps, this is what we think we can get to. What do you think? You know what I mean? But I had Bikram on there because he's our underwriting guy, and he's the one creating the model, whereas I'm putting all the pieces together and gathering the information. And then we have Robert, who's full-time real estate, and he has a construction background, and he's local here. So he's on all the property management phone calls, and he's stopping by the properties physically every week, just checking in with the managers to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. He also has high net worth, high liquidity. And so he allows us to execute these loans because he signs the loans with us. Like I don't have enough net worth and liquidity to sign on a $10 million loan. You know what I mean? So those are the things you have to do is you need to try to identify. And right now we've scaled up. We're getting there to where this can sound overwhelming to anybody who's trying to get into it. So don't be overwhelmed. You have to start small, right? You just need to get the first deal. You don't need to worry about syndicating a 100-unit deal. Even if you get a 10-unit deal, you'll learn so much and you will gain a track record and you'll gain confidence with brokers. Okay. I know a company in Canada, they own over $1 billion of assets, and there's a lady who started it, and she started with a single family home flip. Okay. And then she bought like a 12-unit, and now they're buying $50 million deals. And so you just have to start somewhere and learn. You don't have to be in such a rush. That's how I was. I was trying to bring so much pressure on myself, pushing. You can collapse the time frame doing it that way, but you don't have to do it that way. It depends on what your goals are. So
beautiful
question.
That's pretty good, man, because you get the sense of what it really is like in the life of a real estate investor like you. Now, last question that I have before I ask you some questions that I ask every guest. Coming into real estate, you're new. You figured out that multifamily is a good passive way to get into it in terms of passive income. And you're like, I'm going to do this. But you knew that you didn't have the liquidity to go and purchase a multifamily, let's say 100-unit building yourself. So you're like, I'm going to have to syndicate this. Now, syndication, you're going to have to raise money from people. How did you, in those 14-month period, because how did you approach, let's say, did you first find a deal that you thought made sense and then you tried to set up a syndication, or did you work on developing relationships with investors first so that once you got a deal, you could already present it? Because sometimes the time frame is not going to allow you to build a syndication then. So how do you approach that aspect of the business model?
That's a great question, Pedro, because I think a lot of people wonder about that, and I was wondering about it too. The answer is you kind of have to you have to be doing both constantly. Okay,
Mm,
so you need to try to be cultivating investor relationships all the time, and it's tough because when you're new, you have no track record. It's like the
mm,
chicken and the egg. It's like people don't want to invest with you if you haven't done it before, but you can't do it unless they invest with you. So it's really tough. So that's where it comes. That's where trying to partner with somebody who's experienced and who has done it before and can raise capital comes in big time. Okay, so that's why I would recommend. Like, yeah, you should really start out with friends and family. I personally didn't really have any friends and family that had a lot of money that could invest, but I put 160K of my own cash in the first deal, and I would use that to leverage other people. Like I used that to get a couple other people in the deal that I had met within the last 6 to 12 months at like real estate conferences and through mentorship groups. I basically explained the deal to them and said, "Hey, I'm putting in a large amount of money, so obviously I have skin in the game and I have something to lose. I think it's good." And they ended up doing it as well. But it's tough because a lot of investors are tire kickers, right? So you're going to spend a lot of time talking to people that may never end up investing. But I guess you can't say never because it's such a long-term game that you're always cultivating relationships and you have to be patient, you know?
yeah.
So, I mean, there's people now just in the last couple of months that are reaching out to me that knew I was trying to do this 2 years ago. And now they're asking, "Hey, do you have any deals?" And it's funny because back then I was pursuing them. And now I'm so busy that they start to come and pursue you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just like you have to be patient. You don't want to push investors. But I think when you're starting out, you just need to don't be afraid to kind of tell people what you're doing. But it's tough because you don't want to feel salesy, and it's tough because you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. Usually, the minimum investment for these deals typically is like 50K. Okay, and not everybody has the cash to do that. They may do like a self-directed IRA, or they're using their 401k retirement funds. So that's something you can educate people on too. Like if you know people who have like a lot of 401k or IRA money, a good way to open up a discussion is say you can just kind of talk about what you're doing. Like, "Hey, I'm Pedro. I'm doing syndication. What does that mean?" Well, basically, I spend my time and efforts talking to brokers and property owners, and we find older assets in upcoming areas. And what we do is we raise capital from other investors. So everybody who invests owns a percentage of that deal pro rata. We renovate them, increase the rents, which increases the value, and then we sell it, and that's what creates the profit margin. And did you know you can use your retirement funds to invest in these private assets? You can self-direct them into private investments, and it's completely tax-free as long as you don't take it out before you're 59 and a half. You can just say something like that. It'll pique people's interests. You know what I mean? And so that you're just kind of educating them on what you do. So if somebody asks you what you do, you say, well, I used to do this, but currently I just started this company, or I'm focused on doing this, and this is how it works. And they just might have questions because they might be interested. And you don't need
Yeah.
to tell them on trying to invest, but you explain it to them. And they may say, "Well, if you ever get anything, just let me know." And what I always tell people too is I'll say, "Well, yeah, no worries if you're not ready to invest, or you just want to, even if you want to learn, I'll meet with you and I'll get on a phone call with you just to kind of educate you how it works. And I can just send you stuff from previous deals so that you understand it." But yeah, it's just all about education. You have to take your time, and per SEC guidelines, you have to create a pre-existing relationship if you're doing a 506B. And so, yeah, you have to be patient. But initially, if you have friends or family who believe in you and they believe in what you're doing, then try to leverage that. And if not, or even if you do, try to find experienced people who are doing this that you can somehow bring value to. Okay, so somebody who's really experienced may not have the time or interest in calling brokers or pounding the pavement trying to find deals or driving to the assets every week, whatever. So if you can bring value to them somehow, then maybe they'll partner with you just to get you in the game, get that track record.
Awesome, dude. Now, what's a habit of yours that you think that it has impacted your life in a positive way?
Say that again. Sorry, Pedro, I was breaking up.
What's a habit that you've, maybe started putting into your routines in the past years that you think has influenced you in a great way?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about that miracle morning and what's called the savers. That's huge for me. Even now, if I don't do it now, if I don't do it tomorrow, I'm not going to have as productive of a day and I won't have the energy. And so I used to be like a night owl. Like I used to stay up really late and then I would try to wake up early, but I couldn't, you know what I mean? And I'd always feel like crap. Now I go to bed early, and I wake up early, and I make sure I work out in the morning early. Okay, even if it's 10 minutes, I'll do like a high intensity 10-minute cardio workout, um, timed with my phone while I have an audiobook on my speaker. That's what I usually do Monday through Friday. And I go to the gym on the weekends and Monday night. So going to bed early, waking up early. I meal prep all my breakfasts on the weekend. So like eggs, turkey bacon. I meal prep it all and I put them in Ziploc bags so that for the entire week, I already have breakfast ready to go. So I don't have to waste time in the morning. So just by going to bed early, hydrating really well, I drink at least 1 to 2 gallons of water a day. Right now it's like hot, so like 2. You don't have to drink that much, but I drink a lot of water. So just hydration, getting good sleep, exercising, eating right will give you the mental and physical energy to accomplish so much more throughout the day. And it also gives you confidence in social situations, or even if you have to take a risk, make a phone call, set up a meeting, it gives you a lot more confidence, because I find personally when I'm tired or irritable, I have more anxiety and I'm less
Yeah.
likely, you know what I mean, to make a phone call or to set up a meeting. I don't have a good positive energy, and people realize that. But when I have the energy and I've done what I need to do, my process every morning, then I have so much more confidence to take on challenges and attack the day. So that's the biggest key. I think if everybody would focus on like those fundamental things, you'll just feel better and you'll be able to achieve more things.
Yeah. It's just like compound effect, it doesn't just work with dollars. It also
Right.
happens in our daily routines, in our small habits, small actions that we take, they have an incredible impact on how we proceed with our day. That's powerful. Um,
100%.
Now, what would you say it's a book that has also impacted your life or changed maybe a scarcity mindset or something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say on your last point, I really like the book "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins, because it just talks about mental toughness and pursuing adversity, and it kind of ties in a lot of stuff we've talked about, where he's just like, you don't always have to be happy. Like you need to just suck it up and grind and embrace all the adversity. I really like
Yeah.
that book, "Can't Hurt Me," and I have it bookmarked and I listen to it all the time. Um, right now I'm listening to "The Power of Ambition" again by Jim Rohn. I've listened to it like at least 10 times, but there's bookmarks I have in that, because it's the same thing where it just talks about discipline. It's like daily disciplines. And Jim Rohn is just like black and white. Like if you do this, you're disciplined, you'll achieve happiness. If you don't, you make excuses, you won't. Okay. And so I think I like books like that that are just very like about fundamentals, because like you said, the compounding effect. I mean, the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy's a good book too on that.
Yeah.
But it's like the compounding effect is real, right? For your mindset, for your body, your health,
Hmm.
everything. And so if you can stay consistent, like right now, like one of my personal mottos, like I haven't told anybody this, but I've been telling myself this lately, is just like be boring. Like I don't care. I'm going to be boring. I want to be so consistent and do the hard things every day and repeat, because
Yeah.
I know that it's creating progress. I just can't see it right now, but in like 6 months, 12 months, it will reflect. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's do those things that you don't like to do, but just be consistent with it. Even if it's not, it's like the opposite of pursuing pleasures. And nowadays everybody wants to pursue pleasure. We
We
want,
live, yeah. We
yeah, we
live
want,
in like a hedonistic society in which if
yep,
there's no pleasure, it's not right. Like it needs to have pleasure in it, and it's just not true.
yep,
There's a huge difference between pleasure and joy. I think that you can find meaning even in tough situations. I actually think, Jordan Peterson mentioned this a lot. From a psychological perspective, people aren't actually pursuing happiness. What they're pursuing is meaning. But the narrative of the culture and the literature, it says everyone's pursuit of happiness is not true. Happiness is like an emotion; it comes and goes. If
yep,
you depend on that, one day you're gonna be productive, the other day you're gonna be in your bed eating popcorn. So,
yep,
and as you said, boring. Many people are gonna listen to your daily routines and they're gonna be like, "Oh my God, that's too much." This is one of these guys that try too hard. Well, guess what? If you say you wanna change your life, you should say you wanna achieve certain goals, you're gonna have to do things that you haven't done in the past, right? Jim Rohn says that. He says, if you want to change your future, you got to change the things you're doing on a daily basis. If you continue doing for the same thing, I can predict your future. I just need to look at your past, right? If you don't change anything.
100%.
So it's true, it works, and it's fundamental. Our philosophy will change on how we live our lives, and how we decide to face adversity. And I'm just happy, man, to see that, someone like you has been able to go through so many adversities and, men up, as David Goggins has said. It's not always about pleasure, man. Sometimes it is going to be about pleasure, celebration. It's part of our lives, but not all the time. You can't just pursue the wind and expect to be fulfilled.
100%. Well said, Pedro. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, you're not always going to be happy. You have to embrace a grind, and you'll feel more fulfilled after you achieve something tough than if it was easy.
Yeah. Now, how can people reach you? If they want to invest with you, want to work with you? I don't know if you happen to have any sort of, mentorship program, or if you're helping anyone at the time, but if they want to get to know more of you or work with you, learn your work, where can they reach you?
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Pedro. Appreciate it. Yeah, we don't have any mentorship programs at this point, but I'm happy to get on a call and help people however I can, or at least educate them, establish an existing relationship over time, things like that. But you can go to our website, ZH Multifamily, so ZHMULTI FAMILY.com, no hyphens or anything. And there's a contact us box. You can fill that out. You can email me, Zach, Z-A-C-H, at ZHMultifamily.com. And you can set up a call on Calendly, or just send me an email and we can get on a call. And I'm happy to help however I can. So
That's awesome, man. Well, this is a great time. I was happy to hear of your story. I think that you shared it from a different perspective. Other podcasts that I listened to was more focused on real estate. But even just hearing your story and how you handle situations in your life, I think it's really going to benefit the listeners. So I do appreciate your time, and it's an honor to have someone like you.
Hey, no, thank you so much, Pedro. I appreciate it. Great job. And I really appreciate how you kind of dive into different aspects of it and the journey of how to get somewhere, where we weren't just talking about real estate, but kind of the mindset, because that's kind of what I'm passionate about. And I hope it provided value to your listeners, and keep doing what you're doing, man, because I really respect it.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.
Thanks, Pedro. You too.